sorry. But when you look here, she's not just externally rotating, right? She also has what's her scapula doing, and then her acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular. And then if we go back through here, back to that picture of the infamous belly flops, is he just abducting? No, we've got scapulothoracic, acromioclavicular, and sternoclavicular motion too. So hopefully if you didn't get anything else out of the lecture, that is what you got out of the lecture. All right, let's go through, we're going to go quickly through the goniometry here. Who has goniometer? And I need I need the big one so you guys can see it better. Do I have a big one?
I've got a big
Behind you.
Okay, perfect. And then I need a person. We're going to do abduction. All right, perfect. Okay, go ahead. You're going to stand, and I'm going to be on the back side of them. Okay? So my axis is on the posterior aspect of the acromion. So right there is going to be my axis. Okay? Why don't we move up this way? Out of there. There you go. Okay. So there's my axis on the posterior acromion. I'm going to be standing behind them, but I'm going to do it from the sides just so you guys can see. So there's my axis for abduction. I'm in line with the trunk, so I'm parallel to that spine. And then my movable arm is in line with the humerus. So go ahead and pull that arm up. So once again, that axis kind of moves. I like to keep my finger there. Put it there and then put my finger on my spot because like I said, it's like you're drilling a hole through that shoulder joint. So go ahead and move it all the way up. Good. So it kind of moves, so I readjust it. So I'm still in that mid of that part of that humerus, and I'm in parallel to the spine, and then my movable arm is in line with the humerus. Good. So you go a little farther. Oh, good. There you go. And then I'm going to read it. And she has 1/78 of glenohumeral abduction. And then the opposite was their adduction. We're not going to measure that. If they get their hand at their side, usually they're adducted. The only time I would say if there's some type of a contracture, say they were positioned like this in a splint, and I was measuring adduction, that's whenever I would measure it because they would have lacking the ability to get to full adduction, but you guys won't have to measure it. All right, so that's abduction. Norm 0 to 180. Next, we're going to do flexion and extension. So you're going to be on the laterals. Oh, did we forget the other?
No.
Okay, flexion extension. So they're standing or sitting. They're neutral, elbows extended. The axis is, find the acromion process. You're about an inch below the acromion process. So right there is your axis. Once again, I'm going to set up my axis there. I'm parallel to the trunk, to that spine, or in line with the spine, and then my movable arms in line with the humerus, and then I'm going to keep my finger there. Go ahead and flex for me. Go ahead and pull that arm all the way up. So you see my finger kind of stays in that same place. And now I'm going to realign my axis in that mid-glenohumeral joint. I'm in line with the trunk, and then my movable arm is in line with the humerus. Can you go any further? Oh, perfect. There you go. All right. So she has, again, about 175. There you go. And get her 180 of flexion. Good, and come back down.
And what is the substitution? What would be a substitution that she could do for that? How can she make it look like she's got more? Trunk extension. Everybody put your shoulder up to 90 degrees. Lean back. Oh my gosh, look. I went up. That's 120 degrees. Okay? So when you come in to test us, we're really bad and we substitute all the time. We want to be so much better than we are. So if we do that, you need to tell us, oh, you cheater, sit up straight. Or the other thing that you do is you just acknowledge that, but then you realign. As long as you're keeping it aligned with the trunk, you would still be okay. But it looks like, wow, I just gained 30 degrees of trunk extension. Okay?
All right, and then we're going to go to extension. Same thing. We're an inch below that acromion. There's my axis. I'm in line with the trunk. Go ahead and move into extension. My movable arm is in line with the humerus. Good. Once again, I don't care how she's leaning because I'm in line with her trunk. Like I said, it's kind of hard when I'm measuring from the side, but I give her 65 of extension, glenohumeral extension. So once again, you're going to be just lateral of them so that you can really make sure you're in line with that trunk and not to the side. You're not going to get accurate motions. All right?
Oh, wait. Wrong way.
Horizontal abduction and deduction. Have a seat. Good. So, now this one gets a little tricky. So sit up nice and tall for me. So I'm going to do horizontal. My starting position is abducted to 90. So I'm on top of that acromion, and I'm in line with the other acromion, so it's going to go on the back of the neck. Good, and here's my starting position. So for horizontal, and then I'm in line with the humerus again. So to go horizontally abduct, go ahead and come back towards me. Good. I make sure I'm back in alignment. My axis is on the superior part of the acromion. Then I'm in line with the humerus. Good. And she's got about 43 degrees of horizontal abduction. And then we're going to go ahead and adduct for me. Good, I'm in line with that humerus. Yeah. Good. And then I'm going to look on my other side, and she's got about 110 degrees. I don't like this. Do I go in the front then, I guess, to measure it?
So actually, so the way that your book has you is doing it that way, but because of what Courtney just ran into, the other way that you can do it is, if this is our starting position, this is where I can keep it, and then I just keep my movable arm that will move along with it. Okay?
That's way easier.
Yeah. So the book has it across the back, but it's a little awkward to do it. You can certainly do it that way, because if you're a visual learner, that's fine to do it. But the other way that you can do it for both is you can start out here, and then as you bring that arm in, I just follow along, and then the same way, bring it back out. And as I bring it out, I just bring that arm back like that. The movable arm. My stationary arm stays there. Excuse me. My stationary arm stays there, and my movable arm, and think about how many degrees I move. Thank you.
And I suggest not doing it how your book is, because like I said, depending on their posture, a lot's dependent on there. So I would keep your movable arm, or your stationary arm, where your starting position is. In line with the humerus, good, and then go ahead and do your motion. Horizontal adduct, good. Then I'm in line with the humerus. It's way easier that way. But you can do it the other way, like your book says. All right, and then internal and external rotation. Once again, your book has it here. This is hard because a lot of times you have to stabilize your patient, but we're going to we have really healthy shoulder joints. So here's your starting position. You are in line. Once again, your book has you doing it in line with the spine. So you're actually starting at 90 degrees. Okay, so go ahead and externally rotate for me. Good. Nice. I'm in line with the olecranon. I'm in line with this, the spine, and then I'm in line with the ulna. Good. So then I went from 90 to 175. Now I've got to do a little subtraction. So she has 85 degrees of external rotation.
And you're just lining this up with
the ulna.
Oh, okay.
You should have your palm that way. Okay? How other ways you can measure it, you're not like your book. Same thing, we have our stationary arm starting where the starting position is. And then go ahead and externally rotate. Now you're starting at 0. My stationary arm stays where it's at. And then my movable arm is in line with the ulnar styloid. Good. You got anything else? You got any more? Good. And now she's at 90. Then I don't have to do any subtraction, because it can kind of get a little confusing. So this is how I would do it. The book says you're starting at 90 degrees. Either way will be acceptable. And then internal rotation, you can in line with the trunk, and starting positions here. And you're on the olecranon. Good. So I'm starting at 90, and then my movable arms following that ulna styloid. Good. Now readjust. And internal rotation, she's got 90 minus 10, so she's got 80 degrees. Or starting position, my olecranon's my axis. Both of them are starting here in line with the ulna. Now my stationary arm stays there. Go ahead and internally rotate. My movable arm's in line with the ulna. Good. And she actually has 80 degrees of internal rotation. Good. And you can also measure when your patient's supine. I usually measure supine because the mat is then being is really supporting, so they can't really substitute with trunk motion or scapular motion, so they're real supported. So I'm really eliminating any substitution by measuring them supine. Will it take supine and seated?
Yeah.
And it's super hard to hold your arm out here for a long time.
And in the real world, when you're working with somebody who has a lot of problems with their shoulder, their chances are they're not going to get into 90 degrees of abduction. You can also measure it down here.
So if I'm doing a patient that's not necessarily an orthopedic where I'm working on 20 degrees, if it's more just in general I'm measuring, I'll measure from this position like Cindy says. If I'm not only working on that shoulder, if they're not really very versatile, they can't really move easily, here's a very easy way to measure it. So I'm on the olecranon still, elbows tucked into the side, I'm in line with the ulna, my stationary arm stays there, and go ahead and externally rotate, I'm in line with the ulna. Good, so now my movable arm is underneath the ulna, my stationary arm stayed. I'm holding my goniometer and pulling it out to read so it doesn't move, and she's got 81 degrees of external rotation there. Where would be the issue with internal rotation measuring it? Yeah, especially if they're larger. Sometimes their body might impede that internal rotation. Good, but say with you, I can go ahead and do it. Go ahead and internally rotate. Go ahead and put that hand to your stomach. Good. My movable arm, olecranon, and then there is my internal rotation. So there's 75 degrees. If you're not really just zoning in on that shoulder, I would say this would be the best way to measure it. But a lot of my orthopedic patients where that 20 degrees of internal rotation is a huge deal, I'm getting them supine and measuring them on the mat. Is that it?
Yep.
All right, let's break up in that. And remember, you guys do have a test on this next week, so